one of the main reasons why the United States must, again, there's a difference between our elected officials and us. And I mean that from the standpoint of the overwhelming majority of the country does not want to do business or does not want to be tied at the hip, one and the same, with the state of Israel. Mm-hmm. The powers that be want it specifically for money and power purposes, but that's probably the case in almost any circumstance when it comes to global politics. In this case, the inhumanity of the state of Israel is reaching a breaking point when even MSDNC decides to cover stories like this young little boy who was seeking aid.
We know this story, though, right? Because of...
Jen, would you like to introduce, please, by all means?
No. But did we cover this?
We have not covered it. We have not covered it.
No, I don't need to get into it then, but it's devastating to me. This is that little boy from, we haven't spoken to Anthony Aguilar. I'd love to, but he has been making the rounds. So I don't know if people have been following that. I didn't realize it was on MSNBC. Please continue.
Here we go.
Thank you for having me, and good evening, everybody. What I witnessed on the ground in Gaza can be described as nothing more than, an apocalyptic wasteland. It's human suffering, and for anyone that says that there's no starvation or that the population of Gaza is not at the brink or has already crossed the brink of famine, that is irresponsible rhetoric, and that is only serving to starve the population even further. The population is starving, and the population is desperate, and the population needs aid immediately.
Lieutenant Colonel, could you talk a bit about your timeline when you got to Gaza? You recently retired, you got to Gaza, and what was the first warning sign that something was amiss in how the aid was being distributed? And what were the rules of engagement that you were given as a security contractor on the ground?
Well, from my military experience, one of the initial concerns that I had once we got into Gaza was that we had not been given a clear and briefed and reviewed rules of engagement. We had not received any standard operating procedures for the use of the non-lethal munitions. We had not received any rules on escalation of force, because we were going to be dealing with such a large population of civilians and primarily civilians. We were not there as combatants. We were not there as belligerents in the war. We were there as those that were there to secure humanitarian aid, and we would be engaging with the civilian population. And without having rules of engagement, escalation of force, standard operating procedures, that is a dangerous precedence. Furthermore,
the only reason I believe that MSNBC is covering this is because the Democratic Party, as we mentioned, is destroying itself completely for how they have conducted business over the past decade. Of course, this goes back to obviously what happened with Bernie Sanders and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but it's been a succession of things that has happened. And to me, there is no coming back from genocide. When you have so systematically gone along with all of this, and so much of the party is bought off by it, I think in their mind, they just hit rock bottom, and they don't know what else to do other than maybe in their mind think, well, maybe we can endear ourselves to some people out there and try to claw our way back if we actually show what's really going on there. Because clearly Fox News and OAN and those networks, they're not going to cover it like this. But like I said, they're only doing this because it has completely destroyed them politically. And they waited almost 2 years to do any type of legitimate coverage. And hats off to Anthony Aguilar. He has been nothing short of amazing. And of course, his interview with Katie and a few others has been nothing short of exceptional as well.
I just want people to recognize something that I've noticed about him from right off the bat, which does go towards the credibility factor. They're going to try to smear him. They already have started stuff, and he's already defended what they've said, and it's already just ridiculous, them going after him. He's beyond credible. But the first things he noticed when he tells his story, these are all things that are tactical rules-based things that he's noticing, violations of this rule and that rule and this law and this thing. And he's not even coming at it originally from any biased perspective. And even when he told his story about accepting this job, he went over there thinking he's helping feed people that are in a humanitarian crisis. He didn't really have a preconceived notion of Palestine. And so most of the stuff he started noticing at first was just levels and levels of incompetence that he did not understand how this was being put together this way. And that to me just makes him so much more credible, that he had no preconceived idea.
Couldn't agree more.
All of us were in Gaza under a tourist visa. So when we entered Israel, we entered on a tourist visa, and we were expected to do our work in Gaza, armed, securing aid, and engaging with a very large starving population as tourists.
Anthony, can you tell us about the young boy, Amir?
So Amir was one of the Palestinians that came to site number 2 on the 28th of May. And as you can see in the pictures that were shown in the beginning, we later found out that he's 10 years old, and I have a follow up with how we learned that. But this young boy, in this photo, he looks to be.
I want this, as I've done several times over the past 2 years and will continue to do, I want this image to be sieged in your brain.
So it is. I will never get this kid out of my head for the rest of my life.
So this kid ended up kissing the hand of the very people that shot him dead shortly thereafter, because he decided that he needed to be as grateful as humanly or degradingly humanly possible to thank them for giving him some food so that he can live. And how do they repay him? They blew him away.
And by the way, his family has not been able to claim his body yet.
Of course not. And they never will. As I said, our goal, we can't stop what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. But what we can do as Americans especially is combine forces, put all differences aside, break the back of the Israel lobby in this country. Trust me, guys, they have a lot of money and a lot of power. But you know what they don't have? They don't really have that many people. In fact, a lot of the Christian Zionists, as far as I can tell, are just scared shitless because of the environment that they're brought up in. Tracy Malone, who's done an amazing job as a guest on our channel, has shown just that. People need to have a path forward. You know what I would be planning if I were you guys? Anyone who can get to New York City in September to get to the UN General Assembly meeting, there needs to be the biggest protest outside of that venue showing support for Palestine that you can possibly show. That I'm not a big proponent of protests. That's a protest that I hope universally people would be on board with if they could be.
Boy, in this photo, he looks to be maybe 6 or 7, emaciated. He was with the crowd and he walked over to us, and you see he's got his small items of aid. He doesn't have a bag. He's got some rice, some items that he picked up off the ground, and he beckons to us. There's another contractor standing next to me on my left. And at first we thought maybe he was hurt, or he needed assistance, or he wanted more food, which we didn't have. But he walked up to us and he extended his hand, and he walked up. You see the contractor standing next to me, and he kissed his hand, and then he kissed my hand, and I then put my arm on his. I put my hand on his shoulder to comfort him, to tell him, we care about you, and the world's not going to forget, and you're not forgotten. And when you think about, he was there with no parents, he was there with no one, he was there alone, and he set down the items that he had, and he placed his hands on my face, and his hands were very frail. His fingernails were dry and cracked from the obvious malnutrition. His skin tight and dehydrated. And if anyone says that these children, these human beings aren't starving, shame on you, because they are, and I've seen it. He then kissed me and he said thank you in English, and stepped back, and I felt like maybe there's hope here. Maybe that there's an opportunity that we can do good. he joined the rest of the group that was leaving, because at that point the contractors began what had been the inherited practice of pushing the civilians off the site with tear gas and pepper spray and stun grenades, which gets the group going. It makes them panic. And as they're leaving the site, rushing on this particular site where the IDF had their position where they would shoot at the crowds to contain them along the route going back towards the coast. From that particular spot, it's very difficult to see that exit from where the IDF position is. These sites were put in a very bad location. It puts the IDF at risk. It put us at risk. And this young boy was amongst those that were gunned down on the road back to the Morag corridor to the coast.
It's very, very difficult to take it.
But
we have to. Our job is to bear witness, as Jenna said. It is heartbreaking, but I think in many ways, when we talk about what real bigotry looks like, it's always been this othering of it's not just that it's brown-skinned people. It's this whole, as I've said, about the Zionist doctrine. It's ethnic, cultural, religious, and social superiority that they believe that they have. And when you believe that you are superior and that these are expendable people, just like expendable animals, expendable land, expendable air, expendable clean water, that's what people like this feel. Now, I'm not saying all of them feel this way that are participating, but the fact of the matter is there is a lot of money and power involved in this. And a lot of people in positions of power are willing to look the other way. I don't see Cory Booker, for example, as an evil person. He's just a coward. He's a complete failure of a human who is a coward. Because in my opinion, he's worse than somebody like Wasserman Schultz. Wasserman Schultz is a Zionist of the fullest extent. She believes in her ethnic superiority as a Jew. But somebody like Cory Booker is just a coward. Because for him, his career and his standing in New Jersey and federal politics is more important than the lives of kids like Amir. Kids like Amir are dead because of people like Cory Booker who have no spine. But let him go and stand on the Senate floor again and do a whole dance for 8 hours about what an angry person he is about how Trump is conducting business. Trump merely exposes the entire hypocrisy of the whole system.
I don't know that I agree that something isn't evil just because it's not blatant or overt. I think that if you're supporting this, and not just supporting this, but really thriving off of it. I mean, he lives the life, he really gets to thrive in that life and he likes it. And he just likes to be a man about town. And I'm sure he's a very likable guy. And so that sort of then, I guess, excuses him from being labeled evil. And I don't know that, because I don't think it's a matter of any person being evil as much as it's people doing evil. And I think that arguably he's doing a lot of evil, and that however you categorize him, it doesn't matter.